Build a kingdom and fight your way to the top of the world. This is the premise of Trounced, a massively multiplayer browser game that released less than a month ago. I've been having a lot of fun with this game. I built a really strong kingdom in the first week, then I got wrecked, and now I'm building it up again with new strategies and allies. The goal of this video is to help you learn from my mistakes and rally a horde of players to topple evil empires. I'm going to cover the basic mechanics and show you what it looks like before we get to the story that players are creating. So the first thing you'll do is create a kingdom. You can only have one despite the misleading first page. There are 3 areas of the game: your kingdom, alliance, and targets, or more accurately, war. The in-game tutorial is actually really good, so I'm just going to, give a basic explanation of some things, and tell you what mistakes I made. The hero is one of the first things you select. Some heroes are much stronger than others. I believe the Magician and the Automator are really good. I don't know much about the others. You should ask in the Discord if you don't know what to pick. I picked Slayer because it has very strong offensive stats. I know it's actually not very good, but I believe that I can figure it out and make it really good. You can also equip your hero with items. You can collect these items by fighting in battles, which I'll explain later. These items will give you buffs to attacks, but also to economic elements of the game and your defense against other kingdoms. Land is a source of income. So when you attack other nations, you will get some land from them. You can then develop that land, and that will earn you more income. The higher your land is, the higher your score will be, and that will put you in range of larger nations which can attack you. So it's actually smarter to keep your land low initially, or at least the undeveloped land, develop most of it, and buy up a large army, which I will cover next. There are 4 units here. The one you should focus initially is soldiers. Soldiers are really cheap and they're really effective. I think they're the most cost-effective unit in the game, but they might be rivaled by a few elite units from other heroes. Every hero has its own unique units. I have assassins for Slayer. I believe Magician has magicians, and so forth. The attack per acre and defense per acre, I don't think they actually matter. It's only the raw attack and raw defense. This is just an indicator of how strong your army is relative to your land. I was told by some of the people in Dawnbreak this should always be about 25 to 30, and that should be equal to or greater than the military strength of other people in your range. The inventory. You get items when you complete the daily quests. These items are great, and you should use them whenever possible. Though for some, like High Alchemy, I'm saving them because it will give me a percentage of my income. So my income's only like 400k right now. If I can get it to 1 million and then I can spend all of them, that would be fantastic. So soldiers though, anything like that, immediately spend them, just because that's really useful and there's no point saving them. Here we go, quests. So I've used a resource item. So I get some experience and I can also earn items. There are also sign-in bonuses, which are awesome. And there are packs. You can sign packs with other nations, and these will increase your income, plus 15% gold, which is awesome. For the alliance, firstly, you should join the alliance. That's really good. But you can also see the other members, what the alliance's treaties are. These are the basic treaties of the game right now. And you can see who's joining, which is really neat. And I just realized this is actually shows a lot of OPSEC information, which the alliance will not be pleased with me for sharing. But it is necessary for a YouTube video. It is absolutely necessary. I can purchase things with prestige. So when you donate to the alliance, then you get prestige, and then you can spend it on this. And the alliance tech here, which is the thing you donate to, this also just gives buff to every single player in the alliance. So you should rush through these techs as fast as possible. The monuments. I was told by the dev that no one has built one of these things yet. And I'm really curious, like, how it'll shape the game. It's kind of a tragedy that I'm making this video before anyone's accomplished it. But yeah, hopefully someone does. Oh wait, what's rally? Sorry, I've never seen rally before, so. Work with your fellow alliance members to slay no current rallies. Okay, I don't know what that is, and that's really cool, and we will find out together when someone does it. You can see a list of alliances here. I believe this is also where you just find alliances to join. Like if you wanted to join Paradise, you'd come here and just hit the apply button. For fighting. So this is a list of all the people in your range. You can attack nations that have 75% of your score to nations that have 150% of your score. Or is that just land? I thought score and land were kind of separate. No, they're not, apparently. Score is just land. Okay. We've learned something together. Okay, anyway. So what you want to do first is you want to attack nations that are not in alliances. You add all your units, and then you attack. And you loot some stuff. Or in my case, you don't because they're poor. You can also spy nations to figure out if they have anything, and how strong their defense is. Like it might be they have a ton of units, and you know that you'll lose the battle, and it's not worth attacking them, even if they have a ton of loot. That's odd. It says it has tons of loot, but I earned nothing. It's terrible. Anyway, you can also attack Fey Kingdoms. Fey Kingdoms are NPCs. They were added to the game so large nations with no one to attack, well, had something to do. And so smaller alliances could cooperate instead of tearing each other to pieces, so they could eventually catch up to the bigger ones. Factions. When you attack kingdoms, you spend BP. This is recovered every tick. I think it's 100 per tick. SP is used exclusively for faction battles. For example, I can attack this NPC faction with a ton of troops, and I will have a chance of winning an item for my hero. For example, the Iron Spike is needed here. I'm going to go back to factions. You can increase the difficulty of the faction once you beat smaller ones. So if you beat level 7, then you can get to level 8 and so forth. It will increase the chance of winning the item. However, it also increases the strength of the faction. So you'll lose more units every time you fight them. And this is a good indicator of what each faction gives you. But it will also just tell you here. And when you defeat a faction, then they will all change. So in some ways it's a lottery. You can also use hero abilities, which are really strong. I hear the magicians bragging all the time about a fireball or some other type of ability which allows them to do a lot of damage, or even steal land, which is crazy. For me, then I can increase my attack temporarily, and I can use alchemy, which will give me a ton of revenue. Your mana gradually restores with every tick, but you can also get items which will restore your mana, such as mana recharge, 20% mana, or things like 2000 mana, which are very useful. Now it's at 13,000. The in-game tutorial is really good, but it's also short. The best way to learn the game is by trying everything. You may just discover something that'll let you break the game, at least for a minute. For example, I realized that if you got everyone in your alliance to attack the same kingdom, even though they'll suffer more casualties, they will be completely obliterated. And I speculated about this in the public channel so anyone could try it. Dawnbreak tested it a few hours later, and they sent someone from the top of the leaderboard to the bottom in the blink of an eye. Dawnbreak also realized that the Warmonger hero gave a discount on soldiers, but was otherwise kinda bad, so what they did is have one of their members switch their hero to a Warmonger. The other members would send the Warmonger money, and he would buy the soldiers with it and send them to the buyers for a small fee. I've also heard rumors of a player in the beta that somehow reached the top of the leaderboards without fighting any wars, just by using his hero. All of these strategies have been nerfed a lot, but it proves that creativity is rewarded. I've played 5 new games this month, and I've dropped all of them except for Trounced. It's not because Trounced has the best mechanics, it's because those games didn't have a story that kept me invested. The story in Trounced is a product of player actions. Players will lie, spy, attack and betray each other, but they'll also work together, forge unlikely alliances and redeem themselves. In the past 2 weeks, one alliance fought the world. The biggest alliance was betrayed. The game was invaded by alliances from distant parts of the internet, and charismatic characters like myself have fundamentally changed how alliances fight wars. And there's also some upcoming events which are being heavily foreshadowed. A clash between 2 colonial powers, and perhaps a civil war. I'll try to provide a bit of explanation for each of those things. It would be cruel if I didn't. In the beginning, there was a battle royale. Everyone was fighting each other. None of the alliances were organized, so defense was non-existent. You either stole enough land and money to become a powerful nation, or you just sat there and grew your army. It was like survival of the fittest, or in this case, the most active. I reached 2,000 score every day. I'd go to sleep and I'd wake up with half that. There were a handful of players from the beta that reached over 10,000, which was inconceivable at the time. Eventually 3 alliances formed: Dawnbreak, the Linux Hegemony, and Mangle. Dawnbreak is composed of lots of politics and war players from the Alliance Rose. Their organizational skills dwarfed everyone else. The Linux Hegemony was the most aggressive, and they declared war on every other alliance and kingdom in the game. And Mangle was there too. As I expected, Dawnbreak immediately took the lead. They standardized their military, retaliated against attacks on their members, shared resources, and lobbied for game changes when needed. Dawnbreak grew so quickly and won so decisively that they became a tower of prosperity in a sea of war. Which is a nice analogy when compared to what many other players call the war. The meat grinder. Hundreds of kingdoms sending tens of millions of soldiers off to die. Soldiers are the cheapest unit and the new kingdoms couldn't afford the expensive stuff. Some players suggested a temporary ceasefire. Everyone would lay down their weapons, catch up to Dawnbreak, and then immediately pick them back up again and continue to tear each other to pieces. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Instead, this era of total war came to a close with the disbandment of the Linux Hegemony. In the wake of that sudden peace, then another politics and war alliance invaded. They are named Paradise, and they're allied to Rose in politics and war, but their membership is actually more diverse, including a lot of Rose's enemies. As of today, Dawnbreak and Paradise are almost equal in score. It's crazy how fast Paradise caught up, and it's possible they'll overtake Dawnbreak. There's also an alliance called Eternal, and another called Order of the Eternal Sun, which is probably an extension of theirs. Apparently they have 37 members, and I don't know any of them. The next few weeks will be very interesting, as these alliances fight to have the strongest kingdoms in the game. There can only be one. I'm personally rooting for Dawnbreak, because that's where I'm hiding out. But I'm also kinda nervous, because people have been talking about a Dawnbreak civil war. There's no way I'm joining Paradise, so if a civil war happens, I just gotta cross my fingers and hope my side wins. much like you should cross your fingers and press the subscribe button, because that would be funny. Hopefully, though, more players join and more alliances are created, so I have somewhere to go, and I don't know, so there's more competition. I think it would be very interesting to see how this game progresses differently than Politics and War, differently from Nations at Risk, and differently from Cybernations. And the politics should be unique. And surprise, this video was sponsored by Trounced. You should play the game for all the reasons I listed earlier in the video, but you should also consider donating to it if you're having fun and you're active. I think the benefits of donating are almost worthless unless you're active, which is a good thing because it means it's not pay to win. If you enjoyed the video and want to see another one about Trounced or some other game, then leave a comment. I try to read all of them.